Hi, Roshan. How are
Hey,
you?
Masa, great to meet you and great to be here.
Yeah. So a lot of people are waiting to see you talk today in today's show. So I
Okay.
understand you're super busy during this MCO, right?
Yeah, it's actually worse than I thought you have a little bit more time, but now what's interesting is that because you don't have that travel time, usually you go for a meeting, then you've got half an hour, 1 hour to travel. Now it's like one meeting after another from 7 a.m. to sometimes even 11 p.m. And Saturday, Sundays is not immune to it, right? So it's become exhausting, really exhausting.
So it's more busy than the normal days, right? Yeah. Many
Right?
friends have
It
told
is,
me.
and there's no rest, right? Because any time is a good time because they know they can call you and they say you're at home, right? So there's no like oh, he must be away or having this or having that. So, but anyway, it's an interesting time, right? I think it's a challenging time, but very interesting. I mean, our many businesses are affected. Ours too, significantly. I mean, we've had zero revenue. Almost towards early March, we started to see the revenue taper down. But we figured out how to pivot, and we will talk about some of these things, I'm sure, along the way
Awesome,
today.
awesome. It'll be surely interesting to hear all of that, lah. Right. So, okay, friends here, let me just share with you. Just say hello to Roshan. Roshan is here today. Roshan Thiran, he's the CEO of Leaderonomics. I'm sure you have heard about the company. They are very synonym. Their company is synonymous with leadership development. Okay. Uh, and today, let me just introduce Roshan first before he comes on board. Roshan, the links are already available at the site. You can actually just share it if you wish. Um, and if you have questions for Roshan, of course, please drop them up early as the list of questions are growing. Okay, and feel free to say hello, hi, send your love to Roshan so that Roshan knows that you're around here today. All right. So Roshan is here, and let me just read out some interesting things about Roshan. His resume is like full, a few pages long. Okay, it's like really a lot of things. He's an achiever. He One of the interesting things, he was based in US for quite a long time. One of the interesting things I read about him is he has joined the National Broadcasting Corporation (NBC) at its Rockefeller Center, right, New York City hub, as a sports analysis, as a news and sport analyst responsible for 6 programs, including the Today Show, the Dateline, and a few other shows, right? He also moved on to GE, where that's where he started rising up in the corporate circle. He was in US and in London. And then finally in 1999, he moved to Malaysia as the CFO and Executive Director of
Mm.
GE Engines Services in Malaysia. Okay, one of the interesting things I found is he helped uh, GE, GE's Engines Malaysia to grow 5 times within 2 years. Okay, and then he moved on and worked his way. He became the HR director in Asia Pac with GE, and then he moved on to Johnson and Johnson, also in the HR side. And then in 2008, he formed Leaderonomics. Okay, where we will hear a lot more about Leaderonomics today. Okay, hope that justifies a
No,
little
no,
bit of what you
we
did.
can talk about this. I mean, all these are just stats and bio, right? But we can
Okay.
talk. We can talk a lot more live, in terms of specifics, right? And if there's any questions that people have,
Yeah. Okay. So Nara Subramaniam from LinkedIn has said greetings to you.
Hey, yeah,
And
Nala. Hey, hi.
okay. So today, let's just start with I think your journey, lah. Right. We would love to hear a little bit about how your early days and
Hmm.
what motivates you, how you climbed up the corporate ladder in US, how's the situation in US and all, and before you came down to Malaysia. Let's hear
Yep.
them about that first.
Yeah, so I think I was a little bit lucky because very young in my life I had I started liking to play football, because I saw this 1986, right, when you saw this fat ugly looking fella Diego Maradona, carry
Right,
the world,
right,
inspire and say if that short guy can do it, I can too, right?
right.
I started really playing hard for football and getting I ended up going to the US on a scholarship,
Wow.
university. it's not from the US, but from the university itself. Academic plus sports, playing soccer there also. So when I was there, one of the things that I started to learn and realize, and actually it's inspired by my old coach. When I was first playing football, my first football coach was a guy called Mokhtar Dari. So some people know Mokhtar, very famous Malaysian football icon. So he was
Serious?
my he was my coach. He'd come in and he was a tough guy, right? I mean, he would
Wow.
the heck out of you, right? So training would start at 8 a.m. in the morning. At 10, right, you feel like vomiting, right? And pushed me really hard, But I think I had one conversation with him, I always remember, and he told me this, he said, Roshan, you may not be the most talented, but he said talent is a waste of time. The most
Right.
important ingredient for success is not talent, it's hard work. If you push and work hard and go really push yourself, right, you can achieve anything, right? And this is basically what Mokhtar said. No, unfortunately, Mokhtar passed away a couple of years later. He actually was very sick, so he went to the UK. We were his essentially my team was his last coaching assignment before he moved over to I think it was UK if I'm not mistaken. He left for overseas for some treatment, and
Right.
by the time he came back, he passed away essentially.
Right.
Then I had right after that, the following year, actually, Arumugam, who was a good football, a goalkeeper, he was our coach with Zainal and Dola, the public bank guys, who are
Serious?
yeah. So I've got coached by quite interesting people. Before that, Mokhtar was with Kwangik Bank, so Kwangik Bank was hosting our school. And Arumugam also passed away. I think after that, nobody wanted to coach us. They keep. But anyway, but one thing that inspired me is that Mokhtar told me this. He said, it's not about talent, it's about hard work. So when I went to the US, right, I realized that I can do anything if I want to. So I ended up running for student congress president. I became the first non-American student congress president in the university, and then I decided to start my own newspaper in the university because I didn't like the school newspaper, so I had to start a new one. One thing led to another. I ended up working for a company called General Electric, and I think at GE is where you started to realize, and this is where the confidence came in, because when you do stuff and you push yourself and you realize I can start a newspaper, I can be student congress president, right? You suddenly the obstacles, because I think many Malaysians, when we are, initially when I played football, my first year playing football, every time, right, I see a South American or European, even though people say, hey, you are good enough, right? But somehow when you go inside the match, the confidence just goes down. I don't know why, right?
Mm.
But one day the coach sat me down. It's like, in training, you can do all this stuff. What's wrong with you? Why can't you play the same like you do in training, right?
Right.
And I'm like, actually, and we have this mentality that we are not good enough. We are scared, And
Right.
somehow when we practice, we are okay. But when it comes to the real thing, and this thing called self-confidence, and I
Mm.
realized, right, when I became student congress president, I'm like, hey, who am I? I'm nothing, but I'm heading up the school. And so when I'm in school, I'm very confident. And then I started playing football and I started scoring goals, right? And when I start scoring goals, I'm like, yeah, I can do this, right? And the confidence starts to change, right? And I
Mm.
realized that this is a huge thing that's missing in education, even corporate education. We do a lot of skills training. We do a lot of, we build skills and capability. But what
Right.
we miss is that, but the skills and capability doesn't translate to execution.
Right.
What you need is the in between, and it's self confidence, right? Because
Right.
I can ride a bicycle, you can ride a bicycle, but if you have one accident, I can't. I'm not meant to be riding a bicycle, and you have the skills, you can ride, but you don't
Right.
want to, and that is self confidence, right? And to me, I found that was lacking. And so when I went to G, I was full of confidence because I'm like, what's the big deal? I'm president of my university. I was elected, scholar athlete for the whole conference. We had the Eastern Conference. I was
Right.
a scholar athlete. I'm assistant captain of my football team, which had only one American. You had the Polish, the Europeans, the South Americans, a bunch of Africans from Nigeria. So I
Right.
mean,
Right.
I was I was in the United Nations type of a school, and so I had full confidence. So when I had GE, I was this, yeah, I can do anything, and that confidence translated. So it started with
Mm.
football, with Mokhtar, and giving you that confidence that you can do anything. But I went to university, it went a whole lot higher. And when I went to GE, I started succeeding beyond my wildest imagination because my boss would give me something and I would do something great. And partly also I think was because when I went to work at GE, I had actually worked at the gas station. So in the US, one of the things I did was to earn money. Even though I was
Yes.
on scholarship, everything was paid for. I
Right.
earned money so that I could have the best gadgets, the best VCRs, the best car, the best,
Right.
so
Right.
I worked in a petrol station or a gas station in the US. And,
Right.
I worked my way up to become assistant manager at the station, right? And part of it was, because you have that experience, when I went to GE, right, I understood what it was to pump gas, what it was to, manage a gas station. It helped me a lot in terms of, being able to do things beyond my fresh grad capability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helped me, like, because my boss liked me a lot. In fact, he gave me a lot of advice. Became a very good mentor. My first boss, and I got into GE's exclusive financial management program. Got to become CFO at a very young age, and had many I had 9 different jobs in GE in about 14 or 15 years there. So
Wow.
really moved very fast in different roles until I came back to Malaysia to run the business, right? To run the, sort of manage and run the aviation business. And I went to Europe for a while. Worked with the G Capital business. I was in NBC. NBC was owned by GE, so I didn't move to NBC. It was partly a secondment.
I
So
see.
NBC was part of the GE family at that point in time. They recently, I think, a couple of years ago, they sold it off. But GE started NBC, sold it to RCA, bought it back in the 80s. I happened to come in the 90s. So I spent some time in NBC, working the media, understanding media,
Right.
healthcare, having the variety of experience. I think GE, I'm very thankful. They
Yes.
gave me not just cross-functional, finance, IT, HR, and business management, but they also gave me cross-business, right? Healthcare,
Mm.
aviation, learning about a whole bunch of things, in financial services, right? In G Capital,
Right.
and also understanding how big corporations are run now. So really having that kind of a diversity of experiences, and then moving to Johnson Johnson, which was a completely different company to GE. GE is very centralized.
Right.
J&J completely decentralized. I love J&J. I mean, what a great experience I had. Completely opposite of the experience I had at GE, right? So
Right.
two very good multinationals, and then we started Leaderonomics. So that's I guess some sort of a taste of the experiences that I had over the couple of years in GE and Johnson Johnson.
Right. So what was the key difference, like, in terms of how people operate in GE versus J&J?
So I think GE is very centralized. So we used to have an old boss, Jack Welsh.
Yes.
Very, Jack is a guy who is like, what he says gets done. So if he
Yes.
says get this done, boom, everything gets done. And that culture, I had 7 years with Jack and 7 years with Jeff. If you look at my 14 years, it was kind of split quite evenly
Okay.
between Jack and Jeff, right?
Okay.
And so you would see that Jack was, kind of, his legacy of a very centralized command and control organization
Mm.
continued with Jeff, right? So when Jeff inherited G, it was very much that, right? What Jeff said cascaded down and cascaded down. Now J and
Right.
J is had a decentralized model, so it was
Right.
like, look, the business unit level, they figured out stuff and
Mm.
they inform, and then these guys say, okay, here's some best practices, let's cascade it down back to the other
Right.
businesses. But
Right.
it's a very decentralized approach, and corporate, or the enterprise function is more of a communications and a channel, kind of they push things down, right? So one of
Mm.
the reasons I was brought to J&J is because J&J wanted to go into a centralized structure. So they
Mm.
brought me to drive global talent. So I was
Right.
I was really about, all the things that we did at GE on the talent development side. Can you come into J&J, build it? So I started initially with trying to work at a centralized and pushing it down. And then I realized within a couple of months it's not going to work because nobody cares about what you say. Let's co-create at the operating level and then build it up. And I
Mm.
found, okay, that's fine. So I went to India and we built some stuff. I went to China, we built some stuff. I went to Europe, we built some stuff. I was in the US, we built a succession program, succession performance management and succession planning processes, and then we cascaded it. So it kind of, you got to do the decentralize and then bring it up and say, hey, it worked in India, shall we try it in Japan? It worked in Japan, can we try it in Europe? It worked in Europe, can we try it in Malaysia? That's a slightly different approach, and each manager can decide for themselves whether they wanted to. In GE, it was boom, right? Now I think you can say both have different. I won't say one is better than the other. Both I love J&J.
Mm.
Well, one thing about GE is GE is a very productive company.
Right.
It's like you get it done or you're out, right? So we knew, right? I mean, even in the 90s and so on, right? Jack Welch was like, if you are the bottom 10%, you get fired, right? I mean, you knew that at some point in time your time will come to the end in GE, right? So people sort of knew, and having that long, I kind of survived, always figuring out, okay, how can I be a top performer in GE? Because if I'm not, the likelihood is that you'll get canned. But the good news
Right.
about GE is when people fire you in GE, 100 people want to hire you, right? Because everybody wants to hire GE people. They will at that point in time, maybe not today, right?
Mm.
J so when I left J&J, I give you a good example. When I left GE, right, my boss calls me and says, "Hey, you're going. Good luck to you. Bye bye." Boom. Right. Okay. Whatever. And maybe the guys in Malaysia, happen to be based out there. Like, okay, we have a small little gathering in the pantry. Okay, bugger off. Bye bye. People come and go, right, all the time. In J&J, right, I worked for 2 years there, right. But the guys in China are like, hey, you come over to China. We have a party and we have a
Wow.
celebration. Like couple of hours, like goodbye. I'm like, hugs. I'm like, okay. Went to India, went to US, went everywhere. Like they're all giving like basically they're sad to see you look cool. I'm like, I worked here 2 years, I was 14 years in GE. But both I love the G culture because it helps shape you into being very productive, execution. Right? I love the J&J culture because it gives you a lot of heart, a lot of humanity, right? They really love their employees, right? And if you look at the J&J charter, right, they look at
Mm.
5 things,
Mm.
where they say, look, first and foremost is patience, right? It's the doctors, it's the patients, right? They start, no matter how, shareholders is number 5, right?
Oh,
They have a prioritization. It
right.
starts with the patients, with the people out there, right? The community, right? Not
Right.
even your customers, right? Then they go to your customers, to your employees. And number 5, right? And this is called the J&J. They call it the credo, right? I still remember. I mean, I did have 2 years, right? But I've internalized a lot of their credo, right?
Mm.
And I find it so. But at the same time, if you come to Leaderonomics, you see we execute ruthlessly, right? To
Right.
me, that ruthless execution is what GE taught me, right?
Mm.
So to get the best of the both worlds, right? A heartfelt, human, where you want to be as human as possible, but at the same time you want to run and execute ruthlessly, right? Because you want to get
Mm.
things done. So both having a complete opposite, but both American companies, but both having complete opposite, contrasting way of running a business.
Yeah, it's like very big two ends of the spectrum. Okay, so let's just say a quick hello to all your fans
Sure.
out there.
Yep.
Okay, Roy Marino says hello, and
Yes,
then
Roy.
Malar.
I see Muller. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so it's
Hi
about
Muller.
hard
Hi
work,
Roy.
and can you see
Saiful.
them? Yeah.
Yeah, I see a few of them. Saiful. Hello, Muller. Hello.
Yeah, and then Saifu says hello, and then Malavili, Roshan, great example of confidence, loving the story.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you mentioned Mokhtar Dahari. I mean, and I didn't know this part of you where you actually you excel in football, and you get to coach
I
Mokhtar.
don't know about
I'm a big
Excel.
fan of
I
Mokhtar
don't know
and
about
the
Excel
gang.
anymore because I don't know about
Sorry?
Excel because a lot of I still play pretty competitive football, but all my teammates say you suck now, so whatever. But but yeah,
Futsal?
I played it. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. So you said Mokhtar?
Yeah, Mokhtar is. I'm a big fan of Mokhtar. Mokhtar and the gang. David. I mean Arumugam, uh,
Zainal. Yep.
goalkeeper, Zainal. Wow, you got to actually play with them during that time, and that's amazing. What
I
is
was a little boy, yeah.
sorry
Yep.
again?
No, I was just a little boy at that time learning the ropes. But yeah, it was
Wow.
to me was a big I remember one football game. I tell you about self-confidence. Muller and Saiful and I all talked about this. We had a game. I think they did this purposely. So we were
Right.
playing my MBS football team, my school team,
Right. Right.
and I was one of the youngest because I was in Form 1, I think, or Form 2 when
Okay.
so we had Form 1 to Form 5, the entire football team, about 20, 25 of us, who were being a special coaching over 2 months with Public Bank. So we had
Oh,
Zainal, Dola, I think it was Kan Hang Meng, and what was the right back, Jayakantan, and all these guys, right, who were playing for Public Bank at the time. And they decided to have a friendly match between Public Bank versus my school team. So I was playing, right? So I'm the
oh,
striker, and I'm like, and I remember, right, at the end, right, I hit the bar, and there was one where Arumugam did a fingertip save and all, and so on and so forth, and the match ended 0-0, right,
wow.
and we were all like, oh, we put Public Bank, and for the next 2 years that we talk about the 0-0. I have a feeling, right, They were not even sweating at all, and they were hardly moving, and they purposely allowed us to draw 0-0. But think of the self-confidence, right? That it enabled us, because now our guys were like, hey, yeah, good enough. We drew with all these basically the Slango team. We drew with them, right?
Right.
This is, I think, 88 or 89. I can't remember, 89 maybe. And today, right, when we design our camps, we run camps for poor kids. Part of our work that we do with our community, Leaderonomics community. One of the things we design, right, in our camps is this same model. The same model that Mokhtar and Zaina and all these guys taught us, right, is, look, when you are, so we start the camp and we give them a project. So say Google or Microsoft or somebody gives us a project, right?
Okay.
And we get the guys from Microsoft to come and talk about the project. But let's say, 2 or 3 days, it's a live-in camp. They work on the project and they fail miserably. They don't like the teammates, and they need to work together. But on Friday, right? So Monday they start the camp. On Friday, the say Microsoft regional guy comes in and they listen to the pitching. We make it in such a way that the project, and no matter how they present, right, the guy loves it and wow, it's amazing. And so, but these kids now, right, they really believe like, wow, I presented an amazing project, and the self-confidence it gets when I pitched it. And usually it's not too bad, right? Because we facilitate it. But they get confidence, just like I got the confidence that, hey, I can play football with Zaina and Zola and all these guys. So what's the big deal? Like, just put me on, man. And when I went in there, I never fear. Just put me on. I got sometimes overconfidence when you're not fit, you're lousy. Sometimes I tell my team, come on, just get me on. You can't even run. Just put me on. I can do this, right? So maybe that's but the confidence is there, right? And that's so key. And I remember that match. I always remember 0-0 Public Bank and MBS, right? Never forget it.
That's something that sticks with the mind for a really, really, really long time. Right. So okay. So let's go on to Leaderonomics. I think in 2008 you formed Leaderonomics, and maybe you can share with us why did you form Leaderonomics, and
Sure.
a big jump from the corporate side to form this, and why do you name it as a social enterprise versus a normal company?
Yeah. So, I came back, I had my first experience back in Malaysia in 99, when I came back to run an aviation business that GE had. So GE bought up the business in 97 from Malaysian Airlines, and 99 I came in,
Right.
part of the transformation that we were trying to do. So for the next 2 years, interestingly, we worked on transforming the business, and we succeeded in transforming it. So we beyond our wildest dream, And one of the things I found that was very frustrating when I was transforming the business is the capability of Malaysian talent. And I found that many Malaysians, right, we are actually quite capable, but we just can't execute. And again, at that time, I didn't understand the self-confidence things, right? But I realized there's a gap, right? We build a lot of skill development, but somehow that skill development doesn't come into ruthless execution or flawless execution. So we have skills, we don't execute as well as other countries and other places. And I don't understand, And so in 2001, I actually, I took on a role as in Crotonville, which is G's think tank. I took a break from running businesses, and I went into the dark side of HR at that time. I viewed it, oh my goodness, I'm going into HR, because I hated the HR function at that time. And so I went there. And one of the experiments I started was I started to hire Malaysians, and I started to protect them. And I said, look, I will protect you, because when you come in, you're not as good as some of the other, in terms of the self-confidence. I'll protect you for 2 years, but then I will send you out and push you and really beat the shit out of you, right? And so when I did this process for about 2 years, protect them and in a special program, and then unleash them, what happened is many of them became very successful wherever they went. So I said, maybe it's not about education, maybe it's the process, the first few years in the company, and the self-confidence that you create. So then I said, why don't we go back and we try to embed this self-confidence. So somewhere around there, I started to sponsor myself with a couple of GE people. We started to sponsor free camps for poor kids. So we started in Kota Kinabalu, where we actually got a bunch of kids, and I got my GE managers to sponsor. I mean, I bulk of it we paid, but we got them to say take 3 days off, take 5 days off, and we actually got my GE managers together with me. We actually ran camps for these poor kids.
Right.
And about 2-3 years later, we ran a couple of camps, maybe one camp a year or so. But a couple of years ago, we found out that many of these kids actually now, and this is from Miri, from KK, from all these places, right? They actually ended up going into university, and our GE managers actually continued to be mentors with them. and enabled many of them. They convinced them to go to university, supported them. You don't have enough money, don't worry, we'll help you. And then later when they finished universities, they were not very good. But what happens is many of our gym managers hired them as secretaries or admin assistants and so on. And we said, and then one of the girls actually got married, and we went for their wedding, and I was listening to when the cousins and all were talking, my girl, my cousin is working in GE, doing this, doing that. I'm like, yeah, just a secretary, but I was listening, but suddenly the worldview of these people in this this kampong in Sarawak completely changed. They are like open up, and the possibilities open up that we can do this because someone did it, right? And I said, the stuff that we do at our camps, right? Why can't we do it in a more permanent basis? Because we do it ad hoc, right? So I set up a company. At that time, it's not a company, an NGO called Leaderonomics. That's why we became a social enterprise. So we set up an NGO called Leaderonomics. And the idea was to bring the science of building leaders to kids for free, right? Completely free. And so I put in some money, and then Hui Ming, who was my co-founder, we, also from GE, we joined in, and we said, okay, let's put some money and let's start this NGO. And so we started in 2007, actually. So 2008 is our official Sendirian Berhad, but 2007 we started this NGO called Leaderonomics, and we continued to do with little camps. And in 2008, we realized that a company, at that time, a Star, decided to invest in us, and they said part of the investment is for you to come in. And I came in, and unfortunately for us, the leadership team of Star changed because 2008 they had an election, a general election, and Star, which is partly owned by MCA, they changed leadership, and so they took away that leader who made that investment. And suddenly, the investment was made. They made us so we became a Sendirian Berhad. But now the funding actually stopped. We didn't have any more funding.
Right.
And so that time, we set up a company. So I said, what? Let's not go. We're not an NGO anymore. We are a Sendirian Berhad. Let's become a social enterprise. And so what we did is we go to companies and we provide services to companies. And I used to provide the service. In the early days, it was just me, right? So I'd go and teach. I do some consulting. I teach them about transformation. How do you transform an organization? How do you figure out how to scale your company? How do you educate your employees? So I'll do stuff like that. And then every dollar that we earned came into a pool, and that pool paid everybody's salary. And so the rest of the company focused on the work that we did with going to schools, running clubs in schools, helping NGOs, and so on and so forth. So what happened over the next couple of years, interestingly, is our company started to grow. Right. And so, initially I was training, and then I said, I don't want to train. I honest to God, I really don't like to train. Not something I like to do. So you hardly see me training, right? Even the Leaderonomics, right? When our employees come, can you train this customer once I'll fight with them, No, I literally fight them. Get somebody else. Get Caroline, who's really good. Get Joseph Tan. Get somebody else. Get Muller, get other people, right? Because I really don't want to train, right? And training, every time I train one whole day, I get sick. So I just don't want to do it. I can do it, but I don't like to do it. So then I said, I got a good idea. Why don't I get all the trainers out there, and then I do the design work? Meaning, I build a team to diagnose what's wrong in the company. So we become like a hospital. So we're not a training company, we're a hospital. Hospital, these training companies, they have a product. Okay, I got this product, 7 Habits. I got this product, Six Sigma. I got this product, I don't know, whatever, Blue Ocean Strategy. So they come up with products, and then they try and sell it. Just like drug companies, right? I got Viagra, I got Panadol, I got this, So they got all these drugs, and then they want to sell. So training companies are similar. They're pharmaceutical companies. We said, let's be a hospital. I go to companies and say, what's your problem? Okay, let me diagnose your issue. Let me design something. And then I get all the trainers to execute, right? So I don't have to train. Right. And so we started up, and we got a few good things. We had initially Simon Darby come to us, Maxis. We started with a couple of good companies, and somehow, praise God, I guess, somehow the companies just morphed more and more and more, and soon we're like 150 companies, 200 companies, And our model is very simple: earn enough money on one side so that we can give to the other side, right?
Right.
And so the model changed. And 2018, we actually decided to buy the company back. So myself, we took a loan personally, and we bought the company back. So our shareholder at that time made, I guess you can read, it's public, that they actually were made a big profit, somewhat, when they essentially let us go, and we put sort of a management buyout. And so today we continue the same model, a social enterprise. So our primary mission is to enable us to democratize leadership, to enable youth, NGOs, and others to be able to have access to leadership development. And to, I always call our businesses, we have 3 business units. One is what we call a full-scale hospital, which is our corporate business.
Right.
So we provide hospital services with doctors and so on, and nurses and so on, right? The other one is what we call a digital business, is what we call automated hospital. We just give you the system and the platform. You run yourself. You diagnose using our platform. We give you a diagnostic, design, and automatic delivery platform, right? And the last business, which is our community business, is what we call a prevention center,
Right.
right? So what we do is we work with kids, so we prevent problems from happening in your company in the future, but we do it for free. So we create a prevention center, and we try to enable talent to be developed, so that when they come to your businesses or your NGO or your government in the future, you don't have as much issues with them, in terms of their character, in terms of the capability to build them. And all this is governed by this thing called the science of building leaders, which is a very big research that we did over the last 10 years on how leadership development begins at a child and actually goes all the way to your ultimately when you become an executive leader. So it's a process, and it's not a linear process, but it's a complex intertwined process. And so we follow that intentionally. Okay, I talk too much.
No, very interesting. So it's very obvious that I think your young time, your football journey and all, it sort of rubbed off in this your plans here in Leaderonomics, right? And as I can see that you all focus a lot on the young to the right to the working stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you see as you had when you were growing this company?
Yep. No, and I think there is a lot of challenges at different
Right.
stages of the company lah.
Yes.
So I think any entrepreneur, right, will look at the stage. So maybe I'll just walk through very briefly the stages that we went through last.
Sure.
So when we start up, right, and
Yeah.
I told you that we started as an NGO and then we became,
Yes.
there's always this product market fit, right, which is
Mm,
stage one. When you open up a business, you want to
mm,
see, hey, is my company a viable proposition? Do I actually have customers? Will people actually pay for my product? So when we started, we wanted to give free service. We wanted to give free clubs, which we still do. We got 100 over schools in Malaysia, couple, 17 schools in Cambodia, in Brunei. I mean, we give away free clubs, right, to all the
mm,
Kebangsaan schools, right?
mm.
So we started with that, but you need a viable revenue model, because if not,
Right.
it cannot be viable. And a social enterprise is not a NGO; it's actually a viable business. So we
Yes.
we have this stage where you, as a leader, my job was to actually create products. So my job was to go in and say, what product can I create? I'm become a designer, a developer, a product developer. So I think at the starting, most leaders, when you are a CEO of a company, where you're a startup founder, you're bootstrapping, most of the time we are also the product developer, right? So we are trying to figure out this is, and then we do the commercialization, right? Is that commercial value? So when I start up, we started this program called Talent Accelerator, which is one of our first products. So we go to companies like, at that time, SimW Healthcare was one of our first customers. What was your needs? Oh, you have a bunch of people you were trying to groom to be CEOs of different businesses. Okay, great. Give me them. I will work on them for 1 year and make them into CEOs. So we created this accelerator program, the CEO Accelerator, or a talent accelerator, any level, right? And then Maxis came to us. Hey, we really like what you see, your talent accelerator. Can you do it for our middle managers? Can you do it for our young hypos? Okay, great. So we launched that as a product. And your job is the product manager. I'm testing, I'm beta testing it, I'm prototyping it. So Maxis and my SimW Healthcare were my prototypes, right? So I'm personally doing it, right? But
Right.
that doesn't give you enough time to grow the business or manage. So you
Yes.
product, and then you decide, okay, let me do another product, which is assessment. How do I create another? Or can we create a workshop business? Let me create a learning business. So you're doing that, right? And you're so busy doing it. Now suddenly you realize, hey, I got customers. I can commercialize. I'm making $1 million of revenue. I'm getting 1.5 million. So within 2009, 10, we were seeing 1.5, 1.8. We're starting to grow, and I'm like, oh, this is great, right? How do we scale that to 3 million, to 5 million, right?
Right.
Now you say, I need to build a proper sales team. I need
Yes.
to, and before you build a sales team, you need to do sales. So suddenly
Yes.
you have to change from product developer to a salesman. And
Right.
suddenly you realize when you sell, you need to fight with the product team. Even though
Yes.
you are the one who developed the product, you go there and say, no, you need to tweak the product. It's wrong. We need to be more commercially oriented. Because now, then you start to figure out, okay, there's a new stage. You got to figure out the commercial versus the product. The quality versus the effectiveness or the scalability. So okay, so then you become the sales guy, and
Right.
and then at some point you suddenly like, oh, we are at 5 million, right? So somewhere in 2000, I think by 2010 12, I think we were about 5 million, 5 million, right?
Right.
So, okay, good, we've got this. So now I said, okay, guys, we need to go to 10 million. So how do we do this? And suddenly
Right.
your job is to help to scale the business, right?
Right.
And that means putting processes. That
Yes.
means, potentially taking away the team that built the business with you, right?
Right.
So we have to have many hard conversations, right? The guys that got us here are not going to be takers there. So, and they're all
Yes.
shareholders, because in my business, when we set up the business, we actually gave shares to everybody. So I got 40 over
Right.
people who were shareholders, the original shareholders. And to today, they're still shareholders, Some of them, many of them are not here, but they're still shareholders. And, one day
Wow.
they'll be very rich, I hope, because they've already doubled or tripled their value of their shares,
Oh,
So,
awesome. Awesome.
essentially one day they will make money, and
Right.
hopefully a lot, right? So we know that, but at the same time, they're probably not going to help us to get there. Maybe some can be upskilled, maybe not, right? And you have
Yeah.
to have those conversations, right? Then you
Yes.
got to scale up. So then suddenly, within a couple of years, we doubled to 10 million, right?
Wow.
Then we started to say, okay, then because we put in the investments on systems, now you say, I want to get to 100 million, right? And suddenly you realize you got to go through the same thing again, right? But now it's a very different kind of scaling, because now you
Yeah.
have not just product scaling, because previously it's one market, Malaysia. Now we're going
Yeah.
to start looking at Thailand. So we start
Right.
looking at Thailand. We started India last year, right? We're going to start Indonesia this year. We're looking at China, right? So as we start looking at, now this is a different, and then in between there's always crisis, right? So now COVID comes in, right?
Yes.
So COVID wipes out my training business to zero.
Right. Yes.
So in the last few weeks, we got zero revenue from training, right? Okay, no problem, right? So now how do we pivot, from because it's just a physical transaction to moving to
Yes.
virtual transaction. We're
Right.
already, right? I mean, when I look at but we actually have virtual transactions. It's just that last year, I looked at it, 2019, right? 9% of our transactions were virtual, right?
Okay.
91% was digital, physical transactions, or what we call the traditional business. Or in Coca-Cola, it's called the classic Coca-Cola, or classic transactions, right?
Right.
So we have the classic transaction and the physical. So we won't call it old transactions. But really the traditional transactions versus the virtual transactions. But we had virtual transactions, not like we didn't have, right? So the
Right.
question is, how do you now roll out virtual transactions? Right?
Mm.
So get the business together. And this is where I think leadership is very critical, right? So to me, I changed as a leader, right? And I think you talk to anyone in Leaderonomics, they will realize, right? I completely morphed here. I was very empowering. Oh, team, you do whatever you want, check in. I'll have, monthly check-ins and so on. So, wow, suddenly I became this obsessive, psychotic person that is saying, okay, guys, we need to be clear, right? I came out with a process, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. We're going to divide all the work we do into 4 tiers. Tier 1, must do, that gives us revenue today. Tier 2, that gives us revenue in 3 to 6 months.
Right.
Tier 4, nice to do, meaningful work, but it doesn't help us in either giving us revenue today or in 3 months' time, right?
Right.
And tier 4 is really the really nice to do stuff, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's, I mean, maybe this is a nice to do, but I like you, so I'm gonna give you, I'm doing a tier 4 thing today, right? But reality is we put all our things together, and then first is to do that. Second thing is to help the organization understand, have clarity. So that is work clarity, what we need to do, right? The second thing is reality clarity. Okay,
Right.
so this is where we want to go. I want to go down here, but we are down here, somewhere down here, or,
Yes.
or down here maybe, right? So we need to go from here to here. But some people think we are here. Some people think we are here. Some people think it's a small journey. Everyone needs a reality clarity. So what's reality?
Yes.
So the reality clarity is this: many people are actually grieving. They don't realize it. You see, when COVID happened, the reality is, initially you're going to say, no lah, this thing is 2 weeks, it will pass. And then another extension. That's why our government, upfront, just be clear, because they are like, okay, 2 weeks, every 2 weeks they will keep doing this nonsense, right? But the reality, the first day already, because I looked at it and first day I'm like, look, China was 3 months, right?
Yes.
So reality is we're going to be stuck here 3 months.
Yes.
Best case scenario,
Yes.
right? Now
Yes.
it'll take another 3 months. So how many people after 3 months are going to do training, right? I mean, in my business, right?
Yes.
The reality is not many. So it's 6 months, best case scenario,
Yes.
right? So, but people will be in denial. Then they'll say no. They get angry. How can, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll start to bargain. This is called the grief curve. The grief curve, it goes down and then it goes up, right? So, when you talk about the grief curve, so your company, your employees are going through this grief. So you need to help them. And then they will start to bargain. Come on, boss. I think we just wait 3 months, the jobs will come. Don't need to try and do virtual things. Don't try and be too clever. Don't try and do this. So they bargain with you. And then
Right.
they'll go back, they get angry and deny. So you need to help the company come to the point of acceptance.
Mm.
Now, this is the lowest point. That means your
Mm.
company is in shit shape, but they're accepting. So they
Mm.
have to accept reality. Now they have to be thankful for the past. They have to be grateful and forgive. Okay, nobody's fault. COVID is nobody's fault. It's not China's fault. It's not the US fault. It's not Trump's fault. You can blame all you want. You can laugh at them, but it's nobody's fault, right? We have to go through it. Now that we are there, let's be grateful because COVID can give us an opportunity. It's something I wanted to do for a long time. You fellas never listen, but now we have opportunity to reinvent our business, right? So let's be grateful for this opportunity and let's reattach to something new. What do you need to reattach? Tier 1 and Tier 2 work. And what's Tier 1 work? Tier 1 work is how do we virtualize our business? Tier 2 work is how do we prepare for step 2, step 3, and so forth, right? So we figure out the game plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but that means every day, that's why you try to reach me. I'm like every day from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Yesterday night, I was on a town hall with the US guys to about 11 o'clock, right? Because we are launching a global virtual summit, right?
Right.
That they were going to launch with people like Scott Friedman and Seth Godin and a couple of famous guys. So we're all talking together about how to. So but it's like exciting stuff, right? But to me, it's like I'm like, okay, great, lots of great opportunity, but we have to give clarity to the business. So the number one thing is clarity. Help the company have clarity. Number two things, help them focus, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. But that is a crisis leader, right? A crisis leader is, look, the Titanic is sinking. You don't go and say, okay, Ben, you all continue playing there. I don't know. It doesn't work that way. To me, it's okay, guys. We don't need a band playing. We need you to do this. We need you to do this. And you know what? There's no, like, let's discuss this with the committee. We need clarity first and then focus, right?
Yes.
So people don't like it, but too bad, right? But in 2 months' time, when things stabilize, we figure out things. If they stabilize, then you'll see a very different, because my company is at a scaling point. We are opening up India. We just opened up India. We opened up Thailand last year or year before. We opened up a number of companies. We're going to open up Indonesia supposedly this year, right? Maybe not. We'll see, as we progress, right? And so we need to be continuing our journey of scaling, but at the same time, we need to manage this crisis. So it requires leadership. So different places you play differently, right? So it's you ask me, I've learned a ton, right? I was actually ready to retire, right? So I already got, on the other side, we already have a new CEO, Caroline, who's my successor on the corporate side, right? So Caroline's taken over, right? So she's doing a super job. She's got some great people, Nigesh, all running the shop there. On the digital side, we've got probably the best guy out there, Sashi Kanapati, who's running our digital shop. So, you ask me, we have a great team, right? I got a super team, right? But, you got a crisis, you step in, right?
Yeah.
But I need to figure out how to find another guy to run my international team, Hey, run my global team, and run global ops. In the meantime, I have to run it, right? And I think that's how life is, right? So that's kind of leadership in different eras and different phases of your company.
Yeah, this COVID actually definitely caused a lot of it halted a lot of things for a lot of people I know. So right, so
But
what are some of the things that you all are doing at this time, besides I know the leadership is very, very important. So what are some of the things that you all are putting in place at this time, especially as you mentioned?
So okay, I give you a good example. School holidays was a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yep.
And we had a project that we were helping MDEC with, which was to run the digital ninja camp for for about 20 to 30, I think it's about 25, 30 kids.
Right.
So the camp, you can't run a camp, right? Because no face to face, right?
Yeah.
And the kids are all in their homes, right? It's not like I can bring the kids out. But we went to MDEC and said, look, we're going to run a virtual camp anyway, right? So we ran a virtual camp, right? And it was fantastic, right? So from morning to evening, we ran this virtual camp. In fact, we just finished it last week. 3 weeks, we've been running this digital ninja camp, right? So great, so that's my community business, right? That's our community work that we do for kids, right? So and then we've already launched a platform, a club platform, Leaderonomics Club, in schools. So for us, the school work continues. So we're still running clubs, right? And now we have certain clubs like in Tawau, in Sabah, where we couldn't run special programs because the internet capability and you can't run Zoom and so on. So what we do is use WhatsApp. So we send materials to club coaches. Club coaches send it out. to them, okay, WhatsApp, and then they WhatsApp back to the club coach, and so very primitive ways. But whether it's using technologies like this, big marker and or webinars. I mean, on our corporate side, we can't run training, so we said, okay, never mind, we'll give free training, right? And so we were one of the first, I think, to come up with a webinar series, right? We have 500 people, sometimes 600. We can only take 500, right? So 600 people come in, and the webinar becomes unstable. And we had some tech issues initially, but later on we figured out, okay, fine, we cut off the rest. Wait 1 hour, 1 hour later you can listen to the webinar. We'll put it online, right? So and now that's a series that we can go to market with. And so to us is, we don't know whether it will work, but the idea is what you're doing, you can keep doing it, right? But it's just the delivery changes, right? Because it's the same, right? I'm still teaching, I'm still diagnosing an issue of a company or a customer or a school or a individual. I diagnose what's wrong with you. I design something for you. Now I deliver. Whether I deliver it through digital, or whether I deliver it through physical, or whether I deliver it through coaching, or whether whatever, right? The delivery doesn't matter. The key part is getting the diagnostic and the design right? And so in a hospital, right, you can say, okay, you got cancer. Now, do you want chemotherapy? You want traditional medicine? You want, daily massage? Or I don't know how you cure cancer, right? There might be 10 ways to cure cancer, right? Or you want Western medicine, so you can say which one you want, right? And the delivery, as long as net you achieve in curing the cancer, I think that will be the key, right? So we get so hung up on delivery.
Yes.
And then it's the same with my team, right? Sometimes I'm like, guys, but but it's a process, you can't. I mean, to me, it took me many weeks, right, to get the team aligned, because people, you must understand, everybody looks from different lenses, right? I look at it because I was in GE and J&J. I have different confidence level, right? So when I push, I've got one employee, right, who came in, young person, very young, right, and I pushed this person and say, okay, you become my CFO at a young age. Okay, never mind. Then after that, hey, you do something else. Before that, can you do this? But you can start to see the confidence starting to come in, right? Okay, I can do this, right? And you need to be, as a leader, know who you can push. Some you can, some you can't, right? You can't do that to everyone, because some people, when you push, they will say, no, I quit, right? Some people, they are shy and they're scared and they're worried, but you handhold them and you say, I'll be with you. You go, and then after a while, you don't have to bother, because they will push themselves. They will come to you and say, boss, I want, give me another job, right? So you got to understand where everything kind of lies in.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your growth side in the other countries and all. But before that, let's just say hello to all the friends from LinkedIn who have dropped in to say hello. We have Raghu Ramasamy who said hello. Jagadishwaran. Okay.
Yep.
And then we have Arif Iskandar who said, you have trained under the super mock. Okay, hebat.
Yeah, man.
He's serious, man. That one is really serious.
Yeah. Actually, it's in I don't know, somebody, I don't know who did it, but somebody put it in Mokhtar's Wikipedia page is there.
Really?
I don't know why, but it makes a mention that I was one of those that he coached.
That is really, I mean, I have a big sense of respect for him. All right, and then we have Roshan Rakub saying hi, Vimala Supaya, and then Daniel Low, right? Ananda Rani, who said wonderful, always been a fan of Roshan Thiran. And then George Aaron says hello. Okay, and then from Facebook, and we have Saiful Izan, we have Tarmin, okay, always used to listen to him from those days in BFM and follow his series. Okay, and articles in Stars. Thank you for all the knowledge. And then we have Michael Warren. Does Leaderonomics, okay, here's a question here. Okay, we can answer after this. Does Leaderonomics have or plan to have a franchise model to scale the company? Does that even make sense for you? Okay.
So you want me to answer that?
Yeah, after this, right? We'll keep that question. And then we have Erwin, okay, Ling saying hello.
Yeah,
before we go on to my question, let's just answer this from Michael.
So Michael, good to see you on board, man. But so our model is slightly different, right? It's not really a franchisee model. It's more a joint venture model. So what happened is, when we went to Thailand, we partnered. So one of the things you understand, we are a diagnostic company. So our IP is in the diagnostic and the design. So when we go into a company, so what we found that was very interesting is we went to Thailand and we found a training company or a small company. It's a friend of mine who runs this company, and we decided that, hey, why don't we partner? And so they changed their name from whatever name they were to Leaderonomics Thailand. And what happened was that we started to give our IP, our capability, our content. I mean, if you go to leaderonomics.com, there's a gazillion articles, videos, all free, right? And when people Google Leaderonomics, right? They say, wow, it looks like a big company, and so it helped. So in Thailand, we went there, and the business started to grow significantly. Started to get a lot of count. So the same model we work with India, where we partnered with a couple of folks in India. So the folks in India put some investment in. We are the majority. We put in some investments and we partnered and set up a joint venture in India. We are looking for similar partnerships in Indonesia and so on, where actually there is not a franchisee model, but it's a joint equity model. And majority doesn't matter. So it's sort of the franchisee model, but really it's more of equity. Now, the reason we do that is because we do a lot of cross. I give you an example. We have customers in Malaysia that actually has sites in Thailand, which is why we started in Thailand, right? So when we go to Thailand, we give that business to the Thai business, and then we also can pass the business. But the relationship manager may be housed in Malaysia, say, or in India, right? When they close a business, they say, hey, by the way, and the Indian team just did this. They actually connected this Indian business who has roots in Singapore and Malaysia, and say, look, Malaysia team, can you execute for Malaysia and Singapore? Right? So the Indian team actually has, so as far as we are concerned, we're one big family. In a franchising model, it's a little bit more contentious. This is my customer and so on and so forth. But we are a joint venture, so we are a loose joint venture, and we have, whether it's a minority, majority, it doesn't matter, right? So if you look at AirAsia, it's similar, right? Because they have some sort of ownership in AirAsia Thailand and AirAsia Vietnam, and I don't know where else they have, right? All the different AirAsia Indonesia and so on. But loosely, the enterprise organization provides the broad platform, right? So whether it's, in our case, leaderonomics.com, our B2C platforms, our B2C marketing and channels, and also customers, because when we set up in India, we can go straight away and link them with a couple of key folks in there, because we already work with, a couple of very big customers in Malaysia, with the Nestle's and so on and so forth, that are our customers here. So we can just use that as a basis to introduce the India team. So we don't come from a blank slate, but from a broader overall state. So it's really a more of a partnership, joint venture. However, we are exploring the franchisee model for Europe, right? Much more the mature market. So we are actually exploring this for, we have a dealer slash a franchisee, I guess, that we're exploring this for Europe. So this person has come down, and we spent a couple of weeks and understood the model, and now we are piloting it in Europe. So if it works, we may scale it out in a broader, probably for the developed countries. At the developing countries, because our community work is very important, we want to continue to have some sort of stake in the ground, especially because we don't want this just to be a business. We also want to have our mission, which is our social mission. We want that established in the developing countries. So the developed countries, we're not so worried, because developed countries have their own mechanism and don't need funding. But developing countries, we need help. Developed countries, I'm not so worried. So we can franchise to the developed countries. Probably we will continue a partnership / equity ownership at the developing country level. Hope that helps answer that, Mike.
Right. Okay, that I think quite answered my question also. But what are your plans, like, when you went to Thailand and places like India? What are the challenges going inside, and how did you all overcome them?
Yeah, I think the hardest challenge is always going to someplace greenfield, right? When you talk in greenfield, what we mean is like basically just start from scratch. And we did that 3 years ago in Cambodia, maybe 4 years ago. We actually we sent a guy from Malaysia, we put him in Cambodia, and for about a year and a half, we tried to build a business in Cambodia. And we failed miserably. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So partly is because our model is slightly different. We are not a training company. We are a hospital, right? So there's education. We need to educate the market that, we don't have a menu for you to pick from. We want to understand your needs, and we want to help you build that, right? So in certain countries, maybe greenfield didn't work. So we are a little bit more cautious. Maybe with franchisee / greenfield model with developed countries like Singapore or a Hong Kong or a Europe, maybe it might work. But at the developing country level, we find that there's a need to partner with somebody who's already doing that work. Whether the community work or whether it's digital work or whether it's corporate, one sort of work, partner with them and then use that as a basis to build our business and to grow from them, because it's hard to build customers from scratch, right? So it's case by case basis, but we are very open to look at any country. We're actively looking at Indonesia now, and China, right? So we started India also opportunistic, because Parthiban, who was from Intel in Malaysia, he moved back to India, and he decided he loved the model, he loved what we do in Leaderonomics, and so he wanted to bring it out to India, and we think it's a developing country that really needs what we are offering, right? So it's a very good fit, overall. But it's not easy. But it's and again, I like I say, COVID has, you say it's making it hard for us because I can't travel and people want to see you before they commit to you, right? So you can't really have much dialogues, unless you meet face to face, but or build trust. But I think COVID is also an opportunity, because I get to build a virtual business which I can plan quite easily in any country, right? So our VLI business, for example, which is the virtual learning interventions, it's fantastic business that we are starting to scale in many countries, right? So it's an easy way for us. Right? So to essentially those are great businesses, and then we also have what we call a mentor, Nicole. Nicole is a product that we are pushing. It's a knowledge management platform. We're one of the few in the world that has what we call an LXP, an AI-powered knowledge management / knowledge engagement system that really is out there. So I mean, that's available. So we are trying to launch it B2C. So I mean, those are things that we can launch, right? We're just working on the launches now. So soon, in a couple of weeks, you have that at your doorstep. You have Nicole, which is a needs-based contextual learning. So she'll be available to you at your doorstep, and then we'll have a bunch of other things that's available. So I look at it as opportunity, because we wouldn't have done this fast if it's not it, right? Now, of course, it's going to be bad for us because I have to manage my corporate training and the big. We have almost 70-80 people in Malaysia, right? But we don't have the revenue to support them, right? So we'll have to figure out. We'll manage. We'll do whatever we have to do, but that's kind of where we are now.
Right. Okay. So a few more friends from LinkedIn have actually dropped by.
Sure.
Pub Mahalingam, and then Nara Subramaniam, Hasnan, Zafar, Nanda, okay, Nanda Kumar, and then Keith Tong, Madhavan Nair, okay. And okay, a question from Nara Subramaniam, okay.
Yep.
Hi Roshan, talking about the leadership giants, how did they find the balance between work smart and work hard, and did it affect their sustained existence?
Yeah. I guess you're talking about things like GE and the giants of the corporate world, right? I think I think very important. Maybe I'm going to share a little bit about culture here. One of the reasons I feel GE failed is the cultural model. You see, when you transform a company, right, you come up with a new business model, you pivot, right? But your culture was the same culture from before, right?
Right.
Now, this business model, the new business model requires you to act in different ways because or you have different capability and capacity, right? Your employees. But your culture asks you to behave in a certain way. Your culture has certain so you have certain beliefs. Okay, this company, we have to behave like this because the boss is like that. So now, when you transform your business model, you need to transform your culture. So let's say you want to become a digital company, but your culture is not suited to be a digital company, right? So there's a clash, right? So to me, is you need to start. So this is where it's not so much about work smart or all these other things. You need to say, what is the culture I need to. So that's why a company like GE struggled to become an innovative company. They tried to be like Google, right? They wanted to be an industrial digitized company. Unfortunately, you can get all the hardware there. You can buy up companies, but culturally, right? Do you have that belief system? Do you have the rituals? Do you have the the mindset of being a digital company like Google, right? Google started that way. So it's easy, right? So sometimes, and I have to do this sometimes, when we change our business model, become a hospital a couple of years ago,
Yes.
We had to not just change processes, we had to change our culture. So we had a culture called the naughty but nice culture. But that's not a scalable naughty but nice culture is where I used to play prank. Me and Huimeng, we used to play prank on employees. But suddenly we had
Right.
70 employees. And then we cannot prank 70 employees, right? Die like every week I have to prank two employees. How to think of prank, so people who are not pranked, they started to think, oh, we are not loved so much because we never got pranked, right? So it's not a sustainable culture for us in the scaling phase of the business. So we changed to a bean culture, which is going beyond excellence or going beyond, right? The beyond expectation culture. That's what we call the BE culture, right? And so when we change, so then we say, what is the B culture? What are the attributes? What are the behaviors, right? So we draw the behaviors. And remember, what is leadership? About clarity and focus. Right? I need to have clarity of behavior, and I have focus of behavior. I need to have clarity of results and focus on the right result. I need to have clarity of actions and focus on the action. So once you do that, then you let the people work as smart or as whatever. Because remember, some people can do the same amount of work with less time. Some people can do more. Work
Yes.
smart, good. And some people, they will come to you and say, boss, I finished it very fast. I need more work because I want to learn. Great, load them up with more. Some people, I finished it very fast, and that was my expectation. I don't want any more work. Okay,
Yes.
great. They won't
Right.
get promoted. They won't get bigger pay, but it's okay, right? They're happy where they are.
Yes.
Then you got to manage that. So I don't know whether that answers your question. But I learned that we all come with different lenses. We all see things differently. And we need to apply differently.
Yes.
So it's about almost an hour now. Should we be taking one or two more questions or?
We'll just finish with the last question, right? I know you
Okay.
got it already. How many
Yeah,
minutes do you have? A few more minutes, Roshan?
couple minutes. Sure, no problem.
So the last one is from Hasnan Zafar. Could you explain more about the mindset change of leaders in VLE as COVID-19 experience online learning?
So VLE are virtual learning
Learning, I think.
engages. Okay, so maybe what I mentioned was VLI, which was virtual learning interventions, right?
Okay.
Which is bite-sized learning.
Yes.
So here's the thing. When we first launched VLIs, initially most people whatever, and so
Yes.
we launched it anyway, and we did the free VLIs for everybody. And initially people were skeptical, and but the companies were skeptical, but normal people, they loved it. They loved the fact that, hey, I at 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock I've got specific interventions or specific learning that I can go through, right? And so we saw this change, and then we COVID is good, right? Because COVID forces you to change, right?
Yes.
In a normal society, right, mindset takes a long time, right?
Yes.
What COVID did was force that change within a couple of weeks. But this thing change would have happened over a couple of years, right?
Yes.
So instead of going to a face-to-face 8-hour classroom, we would have changed to a 1 hour, 2 hour bite-sized learning over a period of time. It would
Yes.
have changed anyway over
Right.
5 years, or 7 years, or 10 years, right? It's like newspapers, right? I mean, who reads physical newspapers anymore, right?
Yes.
You read your news digitally or you get it on Twitter and so on and so forth, right? But it takes newspaper 10, 20 years to figure this on, right? Physically, I mean, the Age announced they're stopping their physical financial daily, right? I think, or I forget the daily edition of Edge. A couple of days ago, they announced no more Edge, right? Daily. But it should have probably happened 2, 3 years ago, right? But it's because people are so used to it. The mindset is that, oh, we continue, right? And so, although every year subscription comes down lower, people still are subscribing. When something like this, a crisis comes and nobody picks you up, boom, suddenly the subscription comes to zero. Then both sides lah. The customer doesn't care because they say I don't want that, and
Yes.
the user doesn't produce, right? So it's a
Right.
very simple thing. So mindset change takes a lot of time in a normal way, but
Yes.
crisis like COVID accelerates it, right? And the reality is you can fight it for another few more weeks, months, but long term you cannot fight it, right? People don't go around in horses anymore. They all use cars. And even though in the 1901s, everybody no, I prefer horse, I prefer car, they may have been this debate, no, I don't know, right? But today nobody's you horse go for pleasure today. Horse is not a normal mode of transportation, right? You don't see horses on highways and all this anymore, right? You probably did, because there was a debate. No, we want horses. No, we want cars, right? So it's the
Yes.
same. I want virtual. I want physical. In 20 years time, 30 years time, it's not going to be a
Yeah.
debate.
Yes. It's not going to
Um,
be. No.
I think it's the same lah. So I kind of end with that line.
Okay. So just one more question from Vicky Krishna. What made Leaderonomics sustainable up to now?
Wow, I think I think for us, I look at it as our business model, lah, and we are ever evolving business model, lah. So I think you need to always have your pulse on the business model, and I think the other piece is the culture, lah, because having great culture enables you to have great people, and ultimately, if you think about culture and structure, your business models get driven when you have great people. And today, I think we have probably the best ever team in Leaderonomics history. Incredible team, right? I mean, I cannot believe in the last 2 weeks how they've been so agile and just completely changed. Vicky was in our team many years ago, but Vicky, you look at these guys today, an incredible team, right? And obviously, everybody that's been our team in the last 12 years has helped us in some way, in some form, and we're very thankful and grateful. But I love the team that we have today, and I'm not gonna sacrifice any of them for anybody at this point, because the agility to just transform in the last 2-3 weeks, and then today, again, I was in the from 7 a.m. to about 2:45. I was on a call with all of them, right? Different calls, right? And the enthusiasm. It's been how many weeks? They're still motivated. They're so excited. Every day we exercise at 5:30 together as a team. We have a team building every day, a virtual team building. Incredible, right? And in the morning they're up, they're doing some virtual exercises together at 8:30. It's 5:30. Throughout the day they're talking, they're excited. In between they're working, right? They're talking to customers, right? Incredible. So I think it's a magical team, and I'm super proud of them. I just told Caroline, our CEO, today. I said, look, we have a lot of issues. We fight all the time, but today I'm super proud, right? I mean, today I was like, guys, we did it. We are there. Products are ready. We're ready to kick the market and kick butt now. So I mean, over the weekend I was sending so many emails to customers and saying, super exciting. We're giving away Happily. To our Happily is a new engagement tool. Very exciting app that we just have. So we're giving it away for a couple of customers. So a lot of exciting things. I will bore you to death if I talk about it. But go, and if you want free content, go to leaderonomics.com, go to our YouTube channel. We've got so much exciting free content, work from home series, all there. And I'm hoping we'll get Vasa on our channel too, and we'll get you guys on leaderonomics.com too. All right, thanks guys.
Hey Roshan, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, thank you very much again, Roshan, and hope to see you again. I know you have some more meetings after this. So thanks again for all the tips and sharing your story today. We'll see you again another time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.